The more sensitive someone is to disrespect, the more it reveals their inner instability. They let their worth be defined by how others perceive them, but the Stoic knows. Reaction is a choice, not an instinct. Compassion does not mean letting everything slide. It means choosing your response with clarity, not allowing emotion to lead you away from your principles. Picture a moment when you're misunderstood or publicly blamed. The instinctive reaction may be to defend yourself, to show anger, but what does an emotionally mastered person do? They remain silent, observe, understand the essence of the situation, and respond at the right moment with reason, not to win, but to stay grounded on the right path. Compassion is also a way to set boundaries. When you understand where others are coming from, you no longer expect perfect behavior, but that doesn't mean you allow them to cross your limits. A compassionate person can say no without resentment, because their refusal comes from understanding, not anger, not self-defense. Most importantly, compassion protects your mental energy. You don't waste it on resentment or get stuck in imagined battles of right and wrong. Instead, you maintain clarity of thought, firmness of values, and stillness of mind. You are not driven by the outer world. You respond from an inner world that has been trained. Compassion needs no justification. It needs practice. And when you live with that inner strength every day, you become not only stronger, but untouchable, because you no longer place your soul in the hands of others. Speak less. Speak deep. Speak so others listen. Some people speak a lot, yet no one really listens. Others speak once, and the entire room falls silent. The difference isn't volume. It's the strength behind the words. In Stoicism, speech is not a tool for self-expression, but a matter of ethics, a clear reflection of self-control and wisdom. A Stoic doesn't speak to satisfy the ego. They speak when it is truly necessary. And when they do, they command attention. Respect doesn't come from speaking more, but from choosing words and timing carefully. A well-placed sentence from a calm mind carries more weight than 100 frantic arguments. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself, before you speak, ask, is it necessary? Is it true? Is it helpful? Simple questions, but if practiced daily, they can transform the way you communicate and how others see you. Those who master emotion do not speak from anger. They know anger is fleeting, but the impact of careless words can last forever. Instead of reacting instantly when insulted, they pause to observe, giving reason time to step in. Silence at the right time is not weakness, it is power. When you refuse to be dragged into meaningless quarrels, you not only preserve your dignity, you cause others to reflect. Because those who know how to be silent are the ones others can't ignore. But the Stoic does not remain silent forever. They speak when the words are needed, beneficial, and aligned with their values. They don't use words to prove themselves, but to guide, not just to finish the conversation, but to illuminate it. And that's why their words carry influence. If you want others to listen to you, begin with silence. Begin with observation. Begin by listening to yourself before demanding others listen to you. Then, when you speak, your words will not merely be heard, they'll linger, because they come from a place few ever reach, a clear mind, a trained inner world built on discipline and unwavering principles. Steady like water, peace amidst chaos. Have you ever walked into a tense room, and one person sitting silently somehow calms the entire space? It's not because they are stronger or controlling others, it's because they are in control of themselves. In Stoic philosophy, true strength doesn't come from changing your environment, but from holding calmness regardless of the environment. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have the power to keep your mind from being disturbed. It's your own. No one can intrude unless you allow them." Being steady like water doesn't mean you are indifferent to life. It means you are fully aware of what's happening, but you don't let it carry you away. When others are angry, you don't need to be. When they argue, you don't need to jump in. You choose to stay with yourself, observe, reflect, and act only when needed. A mindful person is fully present in each moment, unburdened by the past or anxious about the future. They're aware of what arises in their mind. When anger comes, they neither deny it nor obey it. They see it, name it, and let it pass like a cloud across the sky. This power doesn't appear overnight. It is built through daily practice, pausing to watch your breath, choosing stillness before reaction, asking yourself, will this reaction align with my values? These small moments are where you construct an inner core that cannot be shaken. In a world full of noise and pressure, those who remain calm stand out not because they are loud, but because they are grounded. People turn to them when things fall apart, not because they have all the answers, but because their stillness is an answer. You don't have to control everything, but you can control how you show up in everything. Like a still lake reflecting the entire sky, a calm mind reveals the truth in all things. And once you see clearly, you no longer react from fear or anger. You act because you know what's right. That is the beginning of inner freedom. That is when you begin to walk steadily through the storm without needing shelter. You might think forgiveness means letting them win, but the real battle is not with them. It's with the emotions anchoring you to the past. Epictetus once said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them." When you hold on to resentment, you're reliving the same wound again and again. In your own mind, you're keeping yourself stuck. Forgiveness doesn't mean accepting wrongdoing. It doesn't erase responsibility, nor require you to keep someone in your life. Forgiveness is the strength to say, I will not let this wound dictate how I live. I choose to release it, to live forward, not ruled by anger, not letting hatred cloud my values or purpose. The hardest part is not forgiving others, but forgiving yourself. You may still blame yourself for staying silent too long, for not standing up for yourself, or for letting emotions hurt someone else. But the Stoic doesn't see mistakes as punishment. They see them as material for training. Mistakes don't make you weaker. They clarify your values and help you decide who you want to become. Look to one of the great examples, Nelson Mandela, who endured 27 years in prison, yet chose to forgive those who wronged him, not because he was weak, but because he understood. Only by letting go of resentment could he truly be free. So can you. You don't need an apology to be at peace. You don't need revenge to feel light. Forgiveness is a key you hold to unlock the door where you've been imprisoned by old emotions. When you let go, you don't lose, you return to clarity, to strength that no longer depends on others' behavior. Peace doesn't come from people treating you right. It comes from how you respond when they don't, and still remain true to yourself. And sometimes, the strongest form of resistance isn't retaliation. It's moving forward with a heart that's lighter, a mind that's clearer, and a silence that speaks of strength. Freedom is letting go of the need for approval. There is a quiet yet persistent form of dependence, the need for validation through the eyes of others. We seek agreement, crave recognition, and even evaluate ourselves based on how others treat us. But that is not freedom. That is surrendering the power to define our self-worth to the outside world and unknowingly letting others control our emotions. Stoics do not reject recognition. They are simply not dependent on it. They understand true value doesn't come from praise, nor does it disappear because of criticism. It comes from how you live, whether or not you remain loyal to your core principles. A person with inner strength doesn't need to impress, they live rightly. And that alone speaks volumes. Imagine you pour your heart into something meaningful, and yet no one acknowledges it. No one thanks you. A wave of disappointment arises. But that moment is a test. Did you do it for genuine value or for approval? Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Your happiness depends upon the quality of your thoughts." If your joy is tied to applause, you'll always fear its absence. But if your joy lies in right action, in discipline, effort, and alignment with your values, you become steady, even when the world turns its back. A person with clear purpose is not easily shaken. They know where they're going and why they've chosen their path. They don't live to please. They don't need to be heard to feel worthy. They have already proven that worth through quiet actions, unwavering decisions, and consistency with principles, whether or not anyone notices. Inner freedom begins the moment you stop trying to prove yourself. You still strive, but to grow, not to earn approval. And ironically, once you let go of the need to be validated, you're respected even more, because people sense something rare in you. A person not driven by the hunger for recognition, but guided by an unshakable internal compass. True freedom lies not in getting what you want, but in no longer being controlled by what you once craved. When you let go of needing to be liked, praised, or seen as right, you begin to touch peace. You begin to live by what is right, not by reaction. And in that moment, your words, your actions, and even your silence carry a weight others cannot ignore. Humility is the strength to step back at the right time. In a loud world where everyone tries to speak louder to be noticed, humility may seem like a faint trait, but to the Stoic, humility is a mark of matured wisdom, power without display, confidence without applause. The Stoic does not need to be above anyone. They don't walk into a room to prove they're smarter, stronger, or more righteous. They come to learn, to observe, to serve something greater than ego. Inner growth and living by values, they know when to step back, and that is not defeat, but strategy, a choice made by one who does not let ego dictate action. Humility begins with the awareness that you do not know everything, and that everyone has something to teach you. A truly strong person is never too proud to listen. They are not afraid of being outshone, because in their mind, there is no race, only the journey of clarifying who they are each day. Epictetus once reminded, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This is not just a lesson in communication, it is a principle for life. When you listen with humility, you create space for wisdom to enter. But humility is not self-diminishment, nor is it low self-esteem. It's knowing your strength without needing to display it. It's stepping back so others can rise, not because you're weak, but because you know when to yield and when to stand your ground. There is a deeper form of humility, one that shows in gratitude and respect for others' value. When you can acknowledge the work of a teammate, the sacrifice of family, or even a reminder from someone you once disagreed with, you nurture a heart free from arrogance, and a person with such a heart never needs to demand respect. They become the embodiment of it. Humility is also the foundation of collaboration. No one wants to work long-term with someone always seeking to be the center. Those who can step back at the right time allow others to grow, and in that process, earn natural respect without saying a word. More importantly, humility shows that you understand your limits. The arrogant collapse in failure, believing they can't be wrong. The Stoic sees mistakes as fuel for wisdom. They accept, learn, and move forward, not to defend ego, but to stay true to their path. You don't need to become small to be humble. On the contrary, humility is how you show your strength without threatening anyone. It is refined power, quiet self-control, the ability to stand firm in a crowd without needing to prove anything, and in a world obsessed with self-assertion. Those who step back at the right moment are often the ones who go furthest. Patience is the art of walking through the storm. In a world obsessed with speed, where everyone wants results now, patience has become a rare kind of strength. Some call it endurance, but to the Stoic, patience isn't merely waiting, it is active, steady, and unwavering. Life will not always go your way. There will be times when your efforts yield no results, times when you're misunderstood, misjudged, or left behind. When you need someone most, these moments can make you question yourself, tempt you to abandon your path, or react emotionally just to feel in control. But in those moments, patience is no longer optional. It becomes essential to staying aligned with your values and direction. Seneca once wrote, "Difficulty strengthens the mind, as labor strengthens the body." When you stand before adversity without letting it tear you apart, when you keep moving despite delay, you are building an inner strength that no one can take from you. Resilience. A person who reacts to every discomfort or injury is not strong. They are controlled by emotion. The Stoic steps back. They observe. They let time answer what haste cannot. They don't need to prove anything in the moment, because they know what truly matters requires time to unfold. Imagine this. You are publicly criticized in a meeting. The instinct is to strike back, to defend your honor in anger. But one who practices patience stays calmly silent. They do not avoid confrontation, but they do not let emotion lead later. When feelings have cooled, they respond with clarity, concrete actions, and a steady voice. And that, far more than any quick retort, is what earns true respect. Patience is also vital in self-development. Some quit after a few failures, thinking they're not good enough, but the Stoic understands. Slow, steady steps accumulate into lasting strength. They're not swayed by short-term results, because their goal is to live rightly, not quickly. Do not confuse patience with resignation. The Stoic does not wait passively. They still act, still move forward, still refine themselves daily, but they don't demand results arrive on their schedule. They let time be an ally, not an enemy. And in patience, you begin to see who is truly strong, not the loudest, not the fastest, but the one who walks slowly without faltering, who waits without losing faith, who stays silent without giving up. That is the art of walking through storms, not to fight the rain, but to move through it without losing yourself. Kindness has boundaries, strength in gentleness. Kindness is a noble virtue, but in a world driven by competition, misunderstanding kindness can lead to being taken advantage of, disrespected, or constantly giving in, until you lose yourself. To the Stoic, kindness is not about pleasing everyone, it is acting from calm, from ethics, and from a principled inner life. True kindness is not weakness. It doesn't stem from fear, nor from the need to be liked. It is the result of a mind that controls emotion, not reacting from wounds, but responding with wisdom. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Don't waste time debating what a good person is, be one." A Stoic's kindness is not indulgent. They do not tolerate what is wrong. They have firm boundaries. No one can overstep them beyond what is allowed. But unlike those who respond with harshness or anger, the Stoic sets boundaries with calm behavior. Their gentleness has a spine. They don't raise their voice to demand respect. They live by values, and that alone commands it. You may meet someone like this in your life. They don't say much. They don't draw attention, but you know they are not someone to manipulate. They are always courteous, but you can feel clearly this is someone whose limits are not to be tested. And that attitude, kind but firm, gentle but principled, is what earns true respect. Kindness also begins with how you treat yourself. Many forgive others easily, but are merciless with themselves. They torture themselves over past mistakes. But the Stoic knows the past cannot be changed, but its lessons can shape the future. Kindness toward the self is the foundation for rising after failure, not for excuses, but for right living. Picture a leader. When an employee makes a mistake, he can choose harsh punishment or choose an honest conversation. Set boundaries, but still show belief that the person can improve. The latter is not easier. It takes strength, self-control, and an inner clarity untouched by emotion. But that way of handling things plants the seeds of lasting respect, not momentary fear. Kindness is a form of presence. It is not a one-off action, but a way of being. You can be soft, but unbreakable, yielding, but not without value, forgiving, but still firm on what must change. Those who live with such presence need not prove their strength. It shows in how they act every day. And you'll find those who are truly kind don't argue to be right. They don't use words to assert themselves. They live rightly and let that consistency speak for them. In a world full of doubt and emotional overreaction, kindness with limits combined with wisdom and principle radiates an authenticity that cannot be faked. And that is what makes others not just respect you, but want to become like you. Gratitude is the way to see life with a conscious mind. Gratitude is not an easy emotion to access on weary days, especially when you feel disregarded, misunderstood, or abandoned when you needed someone most. Yet in those very moments, the Stoic chooses gratitude not because everything is good, but because it is the only way to keep the mind from drowning in negativity. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have lived a portion of your life. Now live what's left like a true human being, with reason, freedom, and gratitude." To the Stoic, gratitude is not merely a feeling but a discipline, a conscious way of living each day. When you practice gratitude regularly, your mind stops chasing what is lacking and starts recognizing what is already present. From there, you stand firmer in the face of adversity. Many mistake gratitude for self-delusion and escape from confronting real issues. But in truth, gratitude is the art of seeing deeper into life to discover both the lessons and the hidden gifts behind every hardship. You don't need a dramatic turning point to practice it. A simple morning reflection, asking, "What is worth appreciating today?" can shift your mental state. Your thoughts become clearer, less judgmental, and more at peace amidst both praise and criticism. You can begin with the smallest things: a rain-free day when you forgot your jacket, a friend who truly listens, or simply waking up one morning and realizing you still have the strength to keep going. When you focus on what you have, your mind clings less to what's missing. Gratitude also nourishes your connection with others. A timely thank you is more than courtesy. It is a recognition that says, "I see you, I appreciate what you've done." And that acknowledgement, simple yet profound, is the foundation of every lasting relationship. People who live with gratitude don't need to demand respect. They offer it first, through their way of being. Ultimately, gratitude is how you keep your mind awake and free from the manipulations of discontent. You don't deny hardship, but you don't allow it to obscure all light. You learn to see every experience, even painful ones, as part of your journey to becoming whole. And when you master this, you'll realize peace doesn't come from everything going your way, but from looking at everything with grateful eyes and acting from a place of awareness. In a world that constantly demands more, gratitude is a quiet but powerful rebellion. It makes you steady, clear, and difficult to shake, no matter who tries. Live with purpose, so no one can steer you off course. There is a kind of aimlessness that doesn't arise in chaos, but in prolonged normalcy. When life becomes monotonous, work repetitive, and relationships drift by without depth, you start to wonder, where am I going? What am I really living for? And in that emptiness, you become vulnerable to being pulled away from the path that was meant for you. To the Stoic, living with purpose isn't about chasing achievements or fame. It's about clarity, knowing what matters most to you, and letting that define how you live, choose, and respond to life. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If you rise in the morning unsure of why you live, then each hour of your day may be wasted meaninglessly." Living with purpose means you know your core, values the principles you don't compromise. When someone offends you, you don't react impulsively because you're not living to prove anything. When misunderstood, you don't need to explain yourself because you live to do what's right, not to please others. That clarity shields you from being swayed by emotions or circumstances. In contrast, those without direction are often controlled by how others perceive them. They live according to societal expectations, chasing approval, and feel lost when they don't receive it. They change their stance over a single judgment, flare up over one disrespectful comment, because they don't truly know what they want or why they are here. Living with purpose also trains you to be steady. You know, not every day will be easy, but you persist because you're heading towards something meaningful. You recognize that some words, some relationships, some opportunities may seem attractive, but they don't serve your journey, and you learn to say no, not out of arrogance, but out of direction. Imagine standing at a crossroads in life. Your job no longer excites you. Relationships have turned shallow, and externally everything seems fine, but inside you feel empty. That is not failure. It is a signal to pause and ask, what is my true purpose? Once you answer that, you'll see what to hold on to, what to let go, and most importantly, what is worth your struggle, your effort, your continued steps forward. A person with direction is not shaken by praise or criticism. They don't let others rewrite their life's path. They may move quietly, slowly, without spectacle, but every action, every decision stems from deep conviction. That is true strength. That is what makes them immune to disrespect, because they no longer need to prove themselves. They simply need to live in alignment with the purpose they have chosen. And when you live like that, everything around you starts to shift. Those who don't respect you will drift away. Those who share your values will appear. You stop being pushed by circumstance. You become the one who leads your own path. Because when you know where you're going, no one can steer you off course. Decisiveness is the power to be silent at the right time and act in the right place. In many situations, people mistakenly believe that to be respected, you must speak loudly, retaliate, and show strength instantly. But the Stoic knows a deeper truth. Decisiveness doesn't lie in noise, but in the ability to remain silent when needed and act at the right moment in the right way, without being led by emotion. Decisiveness is not stubbornness. It is the expression of clear thinking, grounded strength, and the ability to stand for what's right without excuses or noise. The decisive person doesn't need to raise their voice to be heard. They speak once. See, and others understand they are serious. Their words are backed by integrity and consistent action. In Stoic philosophy, action is an extension of values. People respect you, not because you argue well, but because you live in alignment with what you say, even silently. You don't have to react to every provocation or win every argument. You simply need to define your boundaries through presence, through your gaze, through the way you do not compromise with wrong, even in silence. Picture a situation where you face injustice. Someone attacks you verbally, lays a trap with words. Reacting emotionally may give you brief satisfaction, but you lose control. The decisive person knows that timely silence is a strategy. It protects their energy and preserves their stance. So when they act, it comes not from anger, but from reason and purpose. Decisiveness also means saying no to what doesn't fit, regardless of expectations, pressure, or others' disappointment. The Stoic does not live to please. They don't say no out of fear, but because they know what aligns with their path. An unconscious yes can cost you direction. A well-placed no, gently spoken, can preserve your entire character. The decisive person doesn't take the easy path. They often walk against the crowd, uphold principles in silence, and wait patiently for the right time to act. But because of that, they are deeply respected. They don't need to shout to prove themselves. Their calm and consistency do that for them. Ultimately, decisiveness isn't about confrontation. It's about loyalty to your values. Even when no one supports you, even when you stand alone, and you'll come to see, the truly decisive person knows when to step back, when to speak, and when to walk away firmly, clearly, without bitterness or long explanations. When you live like that, you don't just avoid being disrespected, you create a space where others hesitate before crossing your boundaries. Because your silence isn't weakness. It is preparation for powerful action that cannot be dismissed. And that action, when it arrives, is the clearest proof of your strength and true worth. You don't need to be loud to be heard. You don't need to fight the world to be respected. When you master your emotions, live clearly by purpose and value, and act from a grounded inner world, you become unshakable. True respect doesn't come from demanding it, but from the way you show up. And when you live this way, there's nothing you need to prove. Your silence, your clarity, and the depth of every choice will speak for you.